Picture being so completely finished with a relationship that you don't even pick up the phone. No confrontation, no final conversation, not even a text message. Instead, you slide a glittering diamond engagement ring into a FedEx envelope and drop it in the mail like you're returning a blouse that didn't suit you. That is reportedly how Trevor Englesen discovered his marriage to Meghan Markle was done. And while the outside world interpreted it as a cold, calculated Hollywood exit, Trevor experienced it as something far more deliberate. He wasn't simply a discarded husband. He was the man who had known the version of Meghan that was never meant to follow her into the palace. The version that existed before the titles, before the afternoon teas, and before the carefully refined accent that seemed to appear from nowhere. And if the whispers now circulating through certain Hollywood circles carry any weight, Trevor isn't merely nursing a broken heart. He's reportedly holding on to evidence of an entirely different life, one that Meghan allegedly worked overtime to scrub from existence. Trevor Englesen was present during the struggle. He was by her side when she was just another hopeful actress grinding for her next audition. He witnessed the raw, unpolished ambition that pushed her forward every single day. But according to people who remained close to Trevor, he also saw the fragments of her past that didn't align with the story she was carefully constructing. There have long been quiet conversations about Meghan's early years, the period before the world knew her name. Specifically, a strange blank space in her personal history that seems to have been meticulously wiped clean. The late 90s, a stretch of time when most young women are preoccupied with finals and first jobs, appear in Meghan's story as little more than vague references to self-discovery and travel. Yet insiders claim those years weren't about finding herself at all. They were about managing a secret, a marriage that allegedly predates Trevor by almost a full decade. The name that keeps appearing in these hushed, high-pressure conversations is Joe Giuliano, not a film producer, not a title holder, just a regular person connected to her younger years. The rumor, persistent and detailed, is that a teenage Meghan quietly traveled to Las Vegas, stepped into a small chapel, and walked out legally married. For most people, a youthful decision like that eventually becomes nothing more than an embarrassing memory. But for someone positioning herself to enter the British royal family, a secret first marriage isn't just awkward. It's a loaded weapon pointed directly at everything she'd built. The story goes that the union was quickly annulled and the paperwork sealed so completely that it virtually ceased to exist. It was a full reset, a deliberate erasure of a chapter she had decided no longer fit the life she was designing. But you can't just delete people, and you certainly can't erase what a marriage might have produced. This is where the story moves well beyond standard celebrity gossip and into something genuinely staggering. For years, quiet speculation has surrounded a girl named Noel. According to those accounts, Noel was born in the mid-90s and was raised by the Giuliano family in Chicago, quietly and away from any spotlight. While Meghan was studying at Northwestern and later pushing her way into Hollywood, Noel was reportedly growing up in the background, kept at a careful distance from cameras, red carpets, and everything that would eventually define Meghan's public life. If you examine the official version of Meghan's timeline with a critical eye, certain gaps begin to stand out. Periods where she went quiet, stayed off the radar, or offered vague explanations for where she was. Those who claim to know suggest she wasn't traveling through Europe on a journey of personal growth. She was in Chicago, maintaining a fragile connection to a family that held the secret she could never afford to have exposed. If any of this is accurate, it fundamentally reframes everything we think we understand about the Duchess of Sussex. It doesn't simply add a layer to her story. It restructures the entire foundation. It suggests that the woman who speaks publicly about compassion, family, and authentic womanhood may have walked away from her own firstborn child in order to pursue a very different kind of legacy. But stories don't end just because someone decides they should. Time keeps moving, and so do the people involved. If Noel exists and was born when these accounts suggest, she would be approaching 30 today. And recent reports have begun surfacing with a detail that takes the entire narrative somewhere new. This secret daughter has reportedly started a family of her own. If the chronology holds, Meghan Markle isn't just the mother of Archie and Lilibet. She's a grandmother. Let that sit for a moment. While global media tracks her every move as a modern mother and cultural commentator, there is allegedly an entire branch of her family tree growing quietly in the American Midwest, one she has never publicly acknowledged. This isn't a small crack in the image. It's a structural collapse of the story she's been telling. And standing at the very center of it all is Trevor Englesen, the man who reportedly knows precisely where all the pieces are hidden. For years, he has been the quiet ex-husband. He's been dangled million-dollar book deal offers. He's been approached by virtually every major media outlet on the planet. And yet, he has kept his mouth shut. The question everyone keeps asking is, why? Some believe it's personal dignity, others think he's holding out for maximum impact. But perhaps the most compelling theory is that Trevor understands something most people don't. His silence is actually his most powerful weapon. He was inside the machine when it was still being assembled. He was there while Meghan was reportedly mapping out a future that most people would have considered a fantasy. And according to multiple insiders, including established journalists like Megyn Kelly, a young Meghan Markle had a literal vision board featuring Prince Harry's face on it, years before the two of them ever occupied the same room. This wasn't two people randomly crossing paths at a cocktail party. It was, by some accounts, a long game being played with remarkable patience. And Trevor reportedly had a front row seat to the whole operation. The vision board detail, strange as it may sound, keeps resurfacing because it says something profound about how deliberately Meghan constructed her ascent. She wasn't chasing fame in the ordinary sense. She was engineering a specific kind of iconography. And to achieve that, the backstory had to be immaculate. You cannot walk into St. George's Chapel as the relatable, self-made humanitarian if you're also carrying around a sealed annulment and a daughter being raised by someone else's family in Illinois. Every rough edge had to be smoothed. Every inconvenient truth had to be neutralized. And every person who knew too much had to be kept either quiet or distant. The problem with building a life on carefully managed erasures is that the people you erased haven't erased themselves. The Giuliano family still exists. The old friends still exist. The neighbors still have their memories, and those memories are increasingly becoming testimonies. People in Chicago who claim proximity to this situation have reportedly started speaking with more openness. They describe a young girl, same eyes, same presence, unmistakably similar, who was always present at family gatherings but never formally introduced. Not an adopted relative, not a family friend's kid, someone who existed in the inner ring while being kept just outside the official picture. If those accounts are genuine, they paint something genuinely heartbreaking. They suggest that the cost of Meghan's rise was a transaction she made with herself, one where her own past became a legal liability to be managed rather than a human story to be honored. She built new relationships, curated a new circle, constructed a new identity, and left a trail of people behind who had known her when the architecture wasn't yet in place. But silenced pasts have a habit of speaking up at the worst possible moments. Trevor Englesen is reportedly in possession of a significant amount of material that could give these claims real weight. Private correspondence from their marriage, photographs, conversations that speak to the actual timeline of her life versus the version she has presented publicly. The reason Meghan is said to have genuine anxiety about a tell-all from Trevor isn't merely the humiliation of a failed marriage being aired in public. It's the specific fear that Trevor can demonstrate with documentation that she misrepresented herself when she stepped into Harry's world. He can show the full before and after of a woman who reportedly chose to amputate the most fundamental chapters of her human experience in service of a carefully constructed future. His continued silence isn't passivity, it's leverage. And as the stories about a secret daughter and a hidden grandchild become harder to dismiss, Trevor's position only becomes more consequential. The most quietly devastating element of this entire story is the image of Noel watching from a distance. Consider what that might actually feel like. Watching your biological mother appear on the cover of global magazines, being celebrated for her warmth, her advocacy, her authenticity. Listening to her speak publicly about the importance of family while you remain a name she has never said out loud. That kind of wound doesn't resolve itself quietly. And if Noel is indeed raising children of her own now, the emotional stakes shift dramatically. She isn't simply a secret anymore. She's a mother who may want her children to understand who they come from. That desire, completely human, completely understandable, is reportedly what has palace-adjacent PR teams working overtime. Because there is no clean way to explain to a global audience that the royal family's most high-profile modern addition has allegedly been concealing a multi-generational family in the American heartland. The transition from struggling actress to Duchess of Sussex was always presented as the ultimate underdog story. The girl from LA who captured a prince's heart and changed what the monarchy could look like. But the more you examine the layers, the more it resembles an extraordinarily well-executed image campaign. Every relationship was selected with purpose. Every public statement was calibrated for effect. Every inconvenient element from her earlier life was reportedly handled with the same methodical efficiency as slipping a wedding ring into a padded envelope and dropping it at a shipping depot. But here's the thing about truth. It moves like water. It finds the fissures. It seeps through the smallest gaps. And right now, it's finding its way through cracks that weren't there 5 years ago. Whether it's Trevor eventually deciding the moment has arrived, or the Giuliano family growing tired of decades of discretion, the architecture of the story is shifting. The public is no longer passively accepting the version of Meghan that comes pre-approved and press-released. They're asking about the gaps. They're pulling at the threads. The missing years, the Las Vegas rumor, the girl in Chicago. These aren't fringe obsessions anymore. They've become central questions. And the media is starting to catch up. For years, the dominant narrative around the Sussexes focused on palace politics, the tension with William and Kate, the paparazzi battles, the Netflix deals. But beneath all of that noise, a different and far more personal story has been quietly building momentum. It's a story about what someone is actually willing to trade away for the life they've decided they must have. It's about the human cost of reinvention taken to its absolute extreme. Meghan has spent years asserting control over her own narrative, doing interviews on her terms, producing her own content, deciding precisely how much access the world gets to her interior life. But narrative control has a ceiling. At some point, the other people in the story start talking, and she cannot produce or edit those conversations. Trevor Englesen doesn't need to be positioned as the antagonist in any of this. He doesn't need to be a man scorned, out for revenge, trying to dismantle someone who moved on from him. He simply needs to be what he already is, a witness to a part of her life that she has actively tried to make disappear. And the moment he decides to speak, through a book, through an interview, through a legal proceeding, through any channel at all, the particular version of Meghan Markle that the world has been sold will face a reckoning that no PR strategy can fully contain. The Duchess brand, as it currently exists, is built on a specific set of stories. A self-made woman, a devoted mother, an authentic voice. But authenticity, by definition, cannot coexist with allegedly hidden children and sealed marriages. Those two things cannot occupy the same space. One of them has to give. And what does it say about the people watching? Why are so many of us so magnetized by this specific story? Perhaps because it touches something most of us understand privately, even if we'd never act on it. The desire to leave behind a version of ourselves that didn't pan out and present only the most polished draft to the world. Most of us manage it in small ways. A few people, apparently, manage it on a scale that involves sealed legal records and decade-long silences. That kind of commitment to a self-created image is equal parts compelling and deeply unsettling. It raises uncomfortable questions about identity, ambition, and how far a person can run from their own origin before the ground runs out. If the story of Noel and the Giuliano family and the Las Vegas chapel is ever fully confirmed, the fallout won't be limited to Meghan. The British monarchy will face legitimate questions about how thoroughly they vetted the woman who entered their family with such careful planning. It won't just be a personal scandal, it will be an institutional failure. The palace, for all its centuries of tradition and protocol, would have been outmaneuvered by someone armed with determination, a strategic mind, and reportedly a vision board featuring the face of one of its most visible members. The Sussex versus the world framing that has dominated coverage for years would be turned entirely upside down. The story was never that the world was against her. The story, if the evidence holds, was that she was hiding a world from herself, and from the institution she joined, and from a daughter who reportedly had no say in any of it. The tragedy at the heart of this entire narrative isn't a royal scandal. It's a very human one. It's the story of a child who, if these accounts are accurate, was quietly set aside so that someone else's ambition could breathe freely. It's the story of a woman who may have told herself the trade was necessary, that it was survivable, that the chapter could stay closed forever. It's the story of a man sitting on a mountain of information, choosing, for now, to let the weight of his knowledge be enough. But that weight doesn't stay distributed evenly. It shifts, it presses. It eventually demands release. The Giuliano family's long silence has been one of the most structurally important elements of this entire situation. Without their cooperation, the story stays theoretical. But in an era where digital trails are almost impossible to fully erase, where social media surfaces connections across decades, where one photograph can unravel years of careful management, keeping a person sealed away from the public record for 30+ years is an increasingly unrealistic proposition. School records exist. Photographs exist. People who attended the same birthday parties, the same school events, the same quiet Sundays, they all still carry their memories. And as the Noel story picks up velocity, more of those individuals are reportedly beginning to come forward with their own fragments. A comment here, a shared memory there. Collectively, they're assembling something that individual pieces alone could never form. A credible, corroborated alternative account of Meghan Markle's life before the world knew her name. The moment that account becomes fully legible, the conversation changes permanently. It stops being tabloid speculation and becomes documented history. And documented history is something that no communications team, no legal filing, and no carefully produced Netflix documentary can rewrite. Trevor Englesen, in the final analysis, represents the most important missing link. Not because he's the most dramatic figure in the story or the one with the most to gain from speaking, but because he was physically present during the transition period. He knew her when the vision was still being constructed. He saw the blueprint being drawn. He lived inside the house while the foundation was still being laid, before the marble floors and the royal crests and the global fame. And if he ever makes the decision to lay out everything he witnessed in that period, it won't feel like tabloid gossip. It will feel like a historical document. Because it will be. The Duchess of Sussex has spent years inviting the public into carefully curated windows of her existence. She has narrated her own story with tremendous skill and discipline. But every time she opens another window to let the world look in, she inadvertently reminds people that there are rooms she hasn't shown them. And people, once aware of a locked door, cannot stop wondering what's behind it. The secret daughter, the grandchild in the Midwest, the vision board, the mailed ring, the sealed annulment, none of these are going quietly. They are accumulating. An accumulated pressure, in any structure, eventually finds a point of release. When that release comes, it won't arrive in the form of a tabloid front page. It will arrive in the form of real people, with real memories, telling a real story that was never supposed to be told publicly. Trevor Englesen, the Giuliano family, Noel herself, if she chooses. These aren't characters in a rumor. They are, allegedly, the people whose lives were reorganized so that a different story could be told instead. The modern Duchess, and the devoted mother, and the global humanitarian. These are all real roles, played with real conviction. But roles require scripts. And the problem with a script is that it only works if everyone stays in character. Once one person steps off the stage and tells the audience what the rehearsals actually looked like, the performance ends. The era of the carefully managed Sussex brand may be entering its final act. Not because of palace politics or tabloid vendettas, but because human beings are fundamentally incapable of staying erased indefinitely. Memory persists. DNA persists. Love, even complicated love, persists. And the woman who reportedly once handed her entire first marriage back via overnight mail is about to find out that the past doesn't come with a return label. She can change her name, her accent, her country, her title, and her public persona. But she cannot change blood. And blood, as it always has, is beginning to find its way home. The real Meghan Markle isn't the one on award stages or in podcast studios. She is, if these accounts are even partially true, the one who existed before all of it. The girl in Las Vegas, the woman in Chicago, the figure on the vision board who was still working out the price she was willing to pay. And as the world moves closer to finding out exactly what that price was, Trevor Englesen waits, patient, silent, and in full possession of the receipts.